And welcome everyone. This is the first of what we intend to be a series of short meetings. We kind of recognise at Forums International that there's a hell of a lot going on as a direct or indirect result of the conflict in Ukraine at the moment. And so we thought it would be beneficial for everyone if we have a series of regular get-togethers and kind of explore what are the impacts and collaborate together on helping each other out. So Laurie, over to you for introductions.
Yeah, do you want to go to the next slide from? Yeah, fine. Well, good morning, everybody. A lot of people I know. My name is Laurie Beagle. I'm Managing Director at Forums International. So I'd just like to just entry a few words and just to say that I borrowed some of these words from our friends at Class Academy. So Paul Austin will be happy with this. Written by Clara Bohr, who's their managing director, and so I thought I better give the credits out to start with. Anyway, I think Clara's written that to most of us, the crisis in Ukraine was very much unthinkable. I know there's been conflict going on there for quite a long time with Russia, but actually to get where it is today is very much probably what we didn't expect. The humanitarian and economic impacts are unpredictable. Millions of people are certainly praying for peace as the war continues. And watching the news this morning, it's not a lovely sight. It has displaced normal trading and created a very complex situation with negative impact on European economies, and I'm sure that is going to get worse. As Darren said, today is the first of a series of sessions being run by Forums International, supported by our corporate partners. We'll be sharing expert information, how it is key to us and key to these sessions that we hear from you, your experiences and your questions. If we can't answer them all today, we are recording this and we'll make sure that we pick them up and try and get back with some answers. We hope the session will be of value. We look forward to receiving your feedback, and Darren will tell you a little bit more about future sessions as we go through today. So thank you, welcome, and over to you, Darren.
Yeah, thank you, Laurie. Just another note on the recording as well. We want to be able to get this out to as wide an audience as possible. So you will receive a link to the recording. Feel free to disseminate. If there's anything overly controversial that's said, then I'll edit it out before making it public. But just want to make you aware that we don't normally publish our meetings, but I think it's worthwhile in this case to do so. So today I'm just going to take you through the objectives of these sessions and kind of my view and thoughts before we hand over to Mario from Cedar Rose, who's going to be giving us an overview as to the current picture for sanctions, which is rapidly evolving. We'll then have some time for some general open discussion where I'd like to get your feedback and thoughts on what to do. And then we'll wrap up with some support and resources and other things that we're planning at Forums International to support you all. Feedback is very important to us, so we'll also send a feedback form. It takes literally a minute to fill out, but it will help to inform the future events as well. If you're on social media, give us a shout out. On Twitter, we're ForumsInt, or you can use the hashtag FIUkraine. Nice words, please. Thank you. If you've got any questions as we go, please use the chats functionality and we'll endeavour to answer them. If not directly in this session, then in a follow-up session or privately. So the objectives of this session. First, a little bit about myself. I've been a member of Forums International for quite a long time now. I chair the Fraud Prevention Network Forum. For those that aren't familiar with our forums, we have a range of credit risk forums The fraud one is a little bit unusual because it is more focused upon fraud and cybercrime, whereas the other forums are more focused on credit risk. I've been working in fraud prevention for longer than I care to admit. Got a technical background, so I've seen it from the technical side as well as from the user side, let's say. My contact details I'll pop in the chat shortly as well if anyone wants to connect with me. I'm seeing a lot of news at the moment, and I'm sure everyone here is seeing a lot, not just directly what is actually happening on the ground in Ukraine, but the effects it's having upon businesses and individuals. And so it occurred to me that, you know, aside from the very immediate and obvious problems around challenges for sanctions and keeping up with what's going on there and the direct impacts upon our businesses, there are actually a lot of indirect issues as well. So here's just a selection of a few stories I've seen over the last couple of days. But in terms of impact to business, there's impacts with payments. Obviously, anyone trying to deal with payments into Russia at the moment is going to struggle. And that is a constantly evolving picture as well. We're seeing impacts on supply chain in general. Sanctions, as I mentioned, that we're going to be covering shortly with Mario, but also the potential to be exposed because of any work that you might have with politically exposed persons or PEPs, and the risks that can come with that. We're seeing energy prices going through the roof and going further higher. There could well be across Europe soon a shortage of gas if Russia decides to cut off the supply to Europe as a whole. And I think that's quite likely to happen with the way things are escalating at the moment. But we're seeing a lot of fluctuation in materials prices, availability. There is an enhanced cyber risk as well. There's a lot of activity happening in terms of state-sponsored activity, as well as activists, people who are sympathetic to the cause on either side. And this can actually spill over into our businesses. Occasionally, when pieces of malware get out there in the open, they can spread far wider than may have been originally intended. If you do have business and clients in Russia, then there's a reputational risk as well. We've seen news stories around, for example, Shell buying Russian oil and being heavily criticized for it and having to then kind of withdraw and apologize. Dealing with existing contracts and agreements that involve Russia, that could give you a headache and a problem. And how do you actually back out of those contracts and agreements if it's no longer appropriate for you to continue? An obvious impact upon accounts and finance, business continuity in general. I think we could easily see other bits of disruption. Russia may actually disconnect itself from the internet or kind of isolate their own internet usage. And that could have a knock-on effect on systems and access to data. Your staff may be directly impacted. They may have relatives in Russia or Ukraine or in the affected region. They may need support. And I've also been seeing news stories as well. Not only have we been struggling with mental health due to coronavirus, but seeing consistent bad news stories is actually having an adverse effect on mental health. So these are a few of the things that came to my mind. And so we're going to focus this next 20 minutes on sanctions. But I very much like after that sanctions session for us to have a discussion on how we can move these sessions going forwards. So yeah, sanctions is going to be our first port of call. And I'd like to hand over to Mario at Cedar Rose. Welcome to the floor, Mario.
Hi there, and how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
I wanted to check, do you want me to share my screen or?
We can do it from your screen if you like, or I can drive the slides from.
No, you can, I don't mind.
I'll drive it from here to keep it simple.
Yes, yes, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so, welcome everyone. My name is Mario Maroon. I'm Senior Analyst at Cedar Rose International Services. I have been working at Cedar Rose since 2015, started as a credit analyst. And in today's presentation, we will be discussing about the sanctions resulting from the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, as well as the implications of these sanctions on our businesses, on global businesses. Can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, so let me talk briefly about the agenda. We will be covering EU, UK, and US sanctions, how these sanctions were affecting our businesses, and introducing some solutions. Okay, so early February or mainly, no, Darren, please.
Apologies.
Yes. Early February or February 24th, 2022, Russia launched a full-scale military invasion into Ukraine, and the Russian forces started bombing cities, centers close to Kiev. Airports and military headquarters were under attack as well, and this was escalating between the two countries, between Russia and Ukraine as well. By this time, UK, EU, and other Western countries vowed to impose sanctions if this will be escalating. Today, many Western countries have already imposed tough sanctions, like for the past 1 or 2 weeks, and as well, not only on Russia, but on Belarus as well. For the next slide, please. Okay, we will be starting with the EU sanctions and restrictions. There are many tranches for these sanctions on different separate days. For the first tranche, which was in 23 February, 22 February, the German government, with the support of the EU, suspended the authorization process for the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the pipeline which connects Germany to Russia under the Baltic Sea. The European Union, EU imposed sanctions on certain individuals and entities. The EU introduced trade restrictions between the Russian region and the EU, and implemented restrictions to access EU capital markets as well. For the second tranche, which was on the 24th and 25th of February, restrictions on exports of certain goods and technology, the provision of public financing on financial assistance for trade or investment in Russia, the ban on the sale, supply, export to Russia of specific goods for oil refining as well, exports ban covering aviation and space industries, and restrictions on acceptance of deposits exceeding a certain value from either Russian nationals or even residents. Next slide, please. Now for the third tranche. The third tranche was on the 28th of February. They started with a ban on transactions with the Russian Central Bank, ban on Russia carriers to access EU airspace, sanctions on additional 26 people and 1 entity. EU also imposed sanctions against the President, Vladimir Putin, and Sergei Lavrov. He was a former minister. Sanctions also were imposed on members of the National Security Council of the Russian Federation and on the members of the Russian States Duma. The fourth tranche was on the 1st of March. It started with restrictions on the broadcasting and any facilitation of broadcasting. Restrictive measures also to the provision of specialized financial messaging services to some of the Russian credit institutions, and related party, which we heard about it, the SWIFT ban. It covered many banks like Otriti or Novicom Bank and many other banks. Next slide, please, Darren. The fifth tranche was on the 2nd of March. It was focusing on the role of Belarus mainly, how Belarus was supporting Russia, new prohibition when dealing with Belarus as well, focusing on sanctioning this country on the exports level rather than focusing on the finances. And they have also added 22 Belarusian individuals to the asset freeze list. For the sixth tranche, former Ukrainian President Yanukovych was charged with misappropriation of Ukraine state funds as well. He is allegedly in hiding currently, as they have said. The next slide, please. Okay, now we're gonna move to UK sanctions and restrictions. They have like similar sanctions, of course, between the UK and the EU and even the US, but there are some differentiations between how they were imposed. Asset freeze of major Russian banks, like legislation will be imposed to stop Russian companies and the state of Russia to raise and borrow money from UK markets. They have added 100 new individuals and entities to the UK sanction list. Aeroflot to the Russian national airline was banned from landing in the UK as well. The UK stopped exporting high-tech and oil refining equipment to Russia. And they have also set a £50,000 limit for Russians to deposit in UK bank accounts. Restrictions on financial institutions as well, including VTB Bank, a prohibition on UK persons undertaking transactions involving the Central Bank of Russia, the Russian National Wealth Fund, and the Ministry of Finance of the Russian Federation. They have prevented Russian companies from issuing securities and money market investments in the UK as well. And UK asset freeze for President Vladimir Putin and Sergei Lavrov. And finally, for the UK sanctions, they set trade restrictions on electronic, telecommunication, and aerospace. The next slide will be mainly discussing the US sanctions and restrictions for this conflict. On the 21st of February, President Biden issued executive order imposing an embargo on the covered region. On the 22nd, the OFAC, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, imposed blocking sanctions on two major Russian financial institutions, the State Corporation Bank for Development and Foreign Economic Affairs, and Promzia Bank, public company. On the 23rd of February, the United States imposed blocking sanction on Nord Stream 2, a company that is mainly engaged in the pipeline between Germany and Russia. A prohibition for new investment in the covered region by US nationals, the ban of import of any goods, services, or technology, same as the UK and the EU region. The exportation, sale, or supply directly or indirectly from the US to the region. 5 individuals from the Russian president's circle were as well put under the specially designated nationals through OFAC. And one of the latest sanctions they have set on the 3rd of March, President Joe Biden imposed on 8 new members of Russian elite. They have imposed sanction on these elite and their family members as well. The next slide, please. Okay. Since this conflict is very, it's like happening today. So day by day, we are like hearing or even hearing about more and more sanctions from regarding this conflict. So on the 7th of March, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau imposed sanctions on 10 new Russian individuals who are complicit. Canada, Britain, and the Netherlands, they have announced lately that they will work together to form what's being called an international Ukraine support group. This group mainly will aim to provide long-term support to Ukraine. So as I said, maybe now, when we are now presenting, some new sanctions will be formed and will be imposed. So that's why we need to be as much up to date as possible to being able to know about these new and latest sanctions. Okay, next slide, please. What's next regarding sanctions? So there are some expectations of what is coming next regarding the sanctions. US will target basically Putin's ally, Alisher Yuzmanov, the president's press secretary. Yuzmanov, he was lately sanctioned by the UK as well. And since Russia is considered an important energy provider for the EU, so the EU is currently planning to impose further sanctions focusing on the energy sector in Russia. So these are two expectations that have been like, they were talking about what could come next with the sanctions. So if you have as well anything to share about the expectations of the sanctions or any expected move from any Western or any other region, so it's good as well to share them with us. Next slide, please, Darren. Okay, and now we are going to talk briefly about how these sanctions affected our businesses or businesses globally. After listing the latest sanctions now, the Russian, basically the conflict has affected the global financial market and increased the uncertainty globally, and especially after the recovery of the COVID-19 pandemic. So increase of commodity prices which is threatening the increase of inflation rates. We have as well automotive, transport, and chemical sectors that are mostly under risk due to this conflict. According to COFAS, a recession of 7.5% is expected for the Russian economy for 2022, with a downgrade country risk around D, which is very high. So basically, as you may know that European economies are the most sensitive or mainly and mostly at risk. So based on as well COFAS studies, at least 1.5% additional inflation rate will be expected for 2022, while GDP growth is estimated to decrease by around 1% point for 2022. So if Russia has cut the natural gas to Europe, the global GDP is expected even to lose 4 additional points. So maybe the EU GDP will reach 0, or even it will be presented as a negative value. Next slide, please, Darren. The European economies are expected to be the most affected, as I said, most affected economies due to many factors. As shown in these charts, they show the relationship between Ukraine and the EU, the position of Ukraine compared to the EU as well. So in 2011, the EU had a trade surplus with Ukraine of around 6 billion euros. The trade surplus remained throughout the whole period, reaching around 4 billion euros in 2021. Both exports and imports from Ukraine increased between 2011 and 2021. So this relationship has been growing throughout the years. EU exports to Ukraine were on the highest in 2021 and the lowest in 2015. EU imports from Ukraine were the highest as well in 2021, registering 24 billion euros. And the lowest was in 2015 with 13 billion euros. It shows as well that Ukraine was the 17th largest export partner of the EU between Taiwan and Singapore. And on the side of the imports, Ukraine is the 15th larger partner for the EU between Malaysia and Canada. So this relationship between the EU and Ukraine, and due to this conflict that's currently happening, this will be one of the factors affecting the EU's economy. Additionally, and because of the EU's dependence on Russian oil and natural gas, Europe appears to be the region most exposed to this conflict. If we replacing all Russian natural gas in case of a cut, it is impossible on a short term. So this will definitely need to increase in prices. It's worth noting that Germany, Italy, and some Central and Eastern European region are the most dependent on Russian natural gas. So basically, this is it regarding the relationship between Ukraine and the EU. The EU mainly considered the most affected region due to this conflict. Can we move please to the next slide? We will have a very quick brief on Cedar Rose. Since 1997, Cedar Rose has been leading the field for credit reporting, business intelligence, and investigative due diligence for the Middle East, North Africa, and offers access to the world's largest database of business information for the MENA and the world. The experience we have gained through helping our international clients mitigate risk by protecting their business transactions in this region of the world has led us to outspread the coverage of our products and services to a global outreach. So our clients are at the forefront for every decision we make, and options are available for both standard and bespoke reporting services. So we provide credit analysis, compliance, AML, KYC checks. Cedar Rose will give you the confidence to move forward and reach your goals. Next slide, please, Darren. No, the one before. Sorry, yes. I'm going to talk briefly about our coverage. We currently cover more than 240 million companies, of which like 83 million in Europe, 132 in Asia, 17 in Africa, and around 14 million in the MENA region. Next slide, please. One of our main product that will be very relevant to the conflict of Russia and Ukraine is our CR Comply. CR Comply is an automated all-in-one compliance screening tool to assess third-party risk levels and accelerate the customer onboarding process. So our brand new CR Comply is an instant global compliance tool that uses machine learning algorithm capable of processing around 6.5 million articles per day, developed by world-leading engineers teams and curated by teams of subject matter experts. These algorithms produce results with a higher degree of accuracy. So we basically help uncover sanctioned entities, politically exposed persons, and adverse media on companies and individuals globally. The CR Comply is available in 14 languages using 10,000 data sources and covering around 150 million articles per month. I will be sharing with you on the chat box our CR Comply, a sample report of our CR Comply, so you can have a look at it as well. Let me check if I can. Okay, so I have shared to everyone on the chat box one of the sample reports of CR Comply. Can we please move to the next slide? Another platform or another solution that Cedar Rose provide is the Chris Intelligence platform, an on-demand subscription, access to the data you will need. So basically, when dealing with fraudulent individual or risky companies and individual, you will be wasting mainly valuable resources and time, and put maybe your reputation at risk. So with this platform, you will have access to critical credit risk and due diligence information for a single portal. Conduct basically instant compliance checks via CR Comply report. So the CR Comply report is included in this Chris Intelligence platform with access to our live and continuously updated network of global databases. So we cover basically more than 230 jurisdictions, 168 plus million companies profile, 13 million plus directors and shareholder data. Through this platform, you can as well track linkage between shareholders and directors in order to trace basically the ultimate beneficiary owner or who's ultimately behind any company you are tracing. So basically with this platform, you can run automated compliance check credit risk information in few seconds and tailor your report for your needs to meet all your compliance and your requirements. So basically that's it for me. I made sure to make it as brief as it can be regarding sanctions mainly. And regarding the CR Comply, I have shared. If anyone as well has any question or any clarification on this, you can, I'm happy to answer you by email or even here. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mario. We have a little bit of time if anyone has any questions they'd like to put to Mario. I've seen in the chat here, Arta is asking about freezing the real estates of Russian oligarchs and millionaires in the UK. I'll try not to get too political, but I'm rather cynical of our current government. I think it's exposing some of their connections into Russia. It is often said that London is the money laundering capital of the world. My gut feel is that there will become more and more pressure upon the government to do more. But how quickly that will happen, Londongrad, yes. How quickly that will happen, I don't know. I don't know if you have some thoughts on that as well, Mario.
Honestly, regarding politics, I totally agree not to disclose these things. But
Can just come in,
yes.
Mario?
Yes, of course.
Derek Barnett from Dennis Credit Risks. Just picking up on something you said, Mario. I think the key here in terms of the question about Russian oligarchs owning property in London, the difficulty that we have is that we don't know who the ultimate beneficial owner of so many assets and companies are, because of, everybody who's involved in credit and credit risk will know why. But the reality is we simply don't know. And we also have all these oligarchs employ the very best and most expensive lawyers in London. So any attempt to seize assets that we may think are owned by sanctioned individuals, and of course the other thing is that there are many of these so-called oligarchs who are not currently sanctioned either by the UK or Europe or America. So we just don't know who owns what. We don't know who owns whom. We don't know who is a shadow director of a company or an asset. So it's very difficult. I mean, you could go all in and just take these properties and then wait for the legal action to follow. So I think some countries may adopt that approach, but the legal system in the UK, I mean, that could potentially be a very expensive way of proceeding for all of us taxpayers. So that I think is the difficulty on that. I think, and from a practical point of view, I mean, companies that are trading or have been trading with Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia clearly have to, from a practical point of view, determine how they proceed. You know, if they've there won't be a massive amount of business, albeit that the figures that you've shown, there won't be a massive amount of business done by UK companies in Europe, in Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. There will be some, clearly. Credit insurers have withdrawn all cover. The only cover currently there will be the underwriters that are writing on a non-cancelable basis. And companies trading will have to make their best endeavors to make sure that they're not trading or have relationships with sanctioned individuals. Not an easy thing to do when the UK sanctions runs to 564 pages. The EU sanctioned list runs to 684 pages, with even more named individuals in it than the UK list. And I haven't even bothered to try and look at the US list. So again, that's not an easy task. So it's going to be a challenge for all of us. And I think clearly the crunch is going to come for Russia. You've said it in your numbers, the likely recession, or the clear recession that's going to occur in Russia. And the crunch is going to come in the next sort of 30 to 60 days as contracts unwind, and the effects of the Western withdrawal of any business with Russia, and the impact of this withdrawal from SWIFT. And energy obviously remains, or the supply of energy from Russia to Germany and Italy and Finland. How we work, that's even Derek, they have even stopped any like food and beverage brands, international brands, even audit firms like KPMG. They have lately announced that they have closed both their agencies in Russia and Belarus. So basically, yes, it's going on all sectors, this cut. So yes, we are expecting very soon a crash on the Russian economy. I mean, I've read, obviously what one reads, in some cases the wording is ambiguous, as in we plan to, or very soon. If you employ, as KPMG and the other big accounting firms, they employ 4,500, 5,000 people in Russia. They have a contractual relationship with those individuals, so but they're not firing them, are they? How are they going to pay them?
Basically, as I have understood, they are not firing the people. It's rather they're closing the agency under their name. The agency itself is not under the group, not the people. They are not like by this action. They didn't target. As far as I have read on the announcement, they have announced.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're an employee of KPMG Russia or Moscow, that will give you a great deal of comfort. I don't know.
What about the timing? You said 30, 60 days. There's lots of sanctions, but when's it really going to bite? Is it going to take 30 to 60 days for that to happen, to start having a real impact, you think?
Well, I mean, Russia gets a huge amount of income from its gas and oil exports.
Yeah.
The fact that if we don't buy any Russian gas or oil, very little impact on Russia. America not buying Russian gas and oil, even smaller impact. Finland, Germany, and Italy sourcing their energy supply from elsewhere, that's a massive impact. It's obviously very difficult for them. I mean, massively difficult. I mean, Finland gets 94% of its energy from Russia, so it can't just say, right, we're not going to buy it anymore. That's massively difficult, and you can't just step up oil production in Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi. Are we going to switch on Venezuela and Iran suddenly, but they were pariahs, and they're not going to be now? I don't know. I mean, none of us know how this is going to pan out. But I mean, I think long term, I think Russia is going to be busted in the way it was, post 1989, and I don't see that we can incentivize Russia by saying we're going to switch off sanctions. I can't see the West doing that. So I think for Russia, this is going to be cataclysmic, and I'm not sure. Obviously, the Russian people generally don't understand that because they're not being told the truth about anything. But they're going to feel it very, very quickly.
Go back to the Soviet Union.
Yeah. And I think the threat of martial law in Russia, I think, is going to be very real. Because
interesting. Am I right? I think is it still McDonald's and Coca-Cola? They haven't pulled out yet, have they? They're still.
I think they have now. I think I think they've used a bit of ambiguous language, but.
No, they're out. Hi, it's Lisa. Apologies, Lisa Addison. Hi, I got a bit late, so apologies to Miss Mario. They have pulled out, and Starbucks indeed, haven't they? And a few well-known clothing brands, I think, remain. Just a couple of things, Derek. I heard your tail end, Mario, so very interesting. I had a look at your document. Just one thing, Derek. Again, not sure of the full context of what I missed, but the thing on UK property is obviously we all know the points of the obfuscation and the ultimate owners and things, but I think now Parliament has got a few well-known speakers who are really speaking up and using their privilege, parliamentary privilege, to expose those lawyers who are working for those oligarchs with that ownership. So that's one kind of small advancement. And I think the way it's sort of, there's been that crescendo in the last week of the advancement to everything slightly anti-Russia, let's be honest, in the UK Parliament, at least it's moving in the right direction. The other thing is regarding employees, as you said, of KPMG or whoever, PwCs, they are still paying them from other parts of the group, I assume, because they have to protect their employment rights. And let's be honest, everything that's happened isn't their fault.
I
those because I happen to have a friend in music industry and classical and an academic in that field, and she deals actually a lot with Russia every day, and obviously it's absolutely hideous for locals and just normal citizens. But some people are still getting paid, obviously, by those global groups.
Yeah, I mean, I think multinationals will have an ability.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the short term to get round restrictions, but in the medium term, that won't be possible. I don't think.
Well, will they have a job?
The gaps will be filled. That's the issue.
Yeah, will they have a job there? Quite.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Russian economy, when the Russian economy goes into full-scale recession, I think the job losses at KPMG will be a minor footnote in the history, frankly.
Yes, yeah, well, and to KPMG, right?
Yeah, indeed, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've put back on the screen the various topics that I identified earlier. I think in the kind of few minutes that we have left, I'd like to get some feedback on whether this format is useful for everyone, and what topics we would like to cover for future meetings. Notionally, at the moment, we've arranged to do these sessions twice a month, but if there's sufficient demand, then we could actually go weekly if that's of benefit. So I'd just like to kind of open the floor to some kind of general thoughts and feedback, really, and I'll stop sharing the slides for just a moment so we can all see each other more clearly. Ooh, we're all a bit quiet.
Hey, speak to us, please.
Well, I was just thinking about just the people in Ukraine. It's so awful, watching it on.
Yeah, I actually have a business partner who's Russian, based in London, and she has family split between Russia and Ukraine, and it's a complete nightmare. There are people she can't get in touch with. She can no longer send money to her parents. There's a cash run on banks in Russia as well, so even getting hold of cash is difficult. Yeah,
we have an office in Latvia, and yeah, and understandably, they're watching what's going on, with a degree of fear and trepidation that it will be the Baltic states that Putin turns to next if he gets what the result that he's looking for in Ukraine. So,
have you seen any impact there, Derek, from those people? Have they made any changes, as it were? I just wondered, because I was dealing with a business in Estonia not too long ago, not currently, about 3 months ago, maybe 2, and they've gone quiet. And I don't think they're in a position to kind of think and make statements. So I just didn't know how much sort of anxiety there was there. There must be on the ground. And I do have a colleague day to day in Romania who share a huge border with Ukraine, as we know. But we start talking EU and politics and NATO then, don't we?
Yeah, well, I mean, you get to the politics in the end.
Yeah,
it's inevitable. And Romania, is taking, tens of thousands of people. A very poor, a relatively poor country. Moldova also thousands. Poland have taken over 1 million.
It's amazing
to get away from the politics of our response. I have to say. But I think I'll leave that there before I get too agitated.
No, it's like the government isn't doing it, but or the Home Secretary, but other people are, by driving over and bringing people back. Darren, can I just ask you, what is the focus was it particularly sanctions list today? Is there going to be another sort of skew next time? Or
we've started today on the sanctions, and obviously that's going to be an evolving situation. So I anticipate that we'll do regular updates on that. But we're open to kind of suggestions as to what to do for the next meeting, or how we can kind of best provide assistance or facilitate collaboration.
I would suggest that the next one we perhaps should look at the supply chain issues, which are because certainly from a credit point of view, if companies can't get raw materials, etc., then that's going to affect their ability to sell stuff and make money, which have an effect on their ability to pay their bills.
Yeah, I'm very much inclined to agree that we certainly should do something around supply chain.
You could possibly link that with payments, Darren.
Yeah.
So they're linked supply chain and payments, interlinked.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned that the financial impact or the economic impact on Russia, but clearly there's already been some economic impact on the rest of Europe, and there will be pain felt this side as well. And the closer to Russia it is, the worse it will be, because clearly their trading relationships are much greater in Eastern Europe with Russia than we are here in the UK. But we will feel an effect here. For example, 5% of softwood, timber imports come from Belarus and Russia and Ukraine. So those companies that are trading directly with mills and producers in Russia and Belarus.
I think we can also expect quite a shock for food prices as well. I was reading earlier that a significant amount of grain comes from Ukraine, and that's going to cause us all sorts of headaches.
So could I ask if anyone actually on the seminar at the moment actually is trading with Ukraine or Russia, and can give us some feedback as to what they're experiencing or expecting to experience?
Well, we have a very small number of clients who trade with Russia customers in Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. I mean, when I say small number, I would say probably about less than 20.
Mhm.
But all cover's been cancelled.
Yep, understand that. So it's at own risk. Yep.
Yeah, so they would be, if they were trading, but I think most of the companies have simply taken a view, well, they just won't do that business anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
they're not going to try. They're not going to try and trade. It's a bit like going back to Brexit. I mean, there's a lot of companies in the UK who are no longer trading with Europe simply because it's just become too difficult to. So they're looking inward or they're looking to other markets. And I think, you know, I think that that situation, certainly with Russia, I don't think is going to change, and Belarus is going to very quickly at all. I think people should just say, and why would you want to trade in countries which are going to be going through really, really tough times? You're going
that's right. So I was sort of thinking that's right. I think we know that you know, generally trade going forward is going to be highly doubtful unless companies are prepared to take extraordinary risk to make extraordinary profit, if possible. But also there was trading going on before this happened.
Yeah.
And therefore there are exposures now in every company that's trading with those two countries, or three countries really.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there was anyone on who has actually been trading with them and has concerns about the quality of their ledger now.
Yeah, hi, Kerry. I can say that I was working for a manufacturing company. We have an exposure of 1 million euros. Bosch, German company, Whirlpool, American company, and Frigoglass is a Greek company, all with manufacturing locations in Russia. And we have a you know, Bosch. Okay, that's Bosch and Whirlpool. You know, they're global corporations. That you know, we're confident that that exposure is under the global agreement, let's say. So we're protected. But with Frigoglass, their customer was Coca-Cola. We were watching what Coca-Cola were doing. Now Coca-Cola have withdrawn. It seems that Frigoglass are you know, destroyed. You know, and you know, we had some credit insurance that's been withdrawn. So I'm not too sure really whether, you know, whether we're just trying to plan, you know, writing it off and damage limitation.
Sorry.
That's great feedback, and that's what I'd love to hear about. Is just what companies actually trading now have got in terms of exposure and how they're going to deal with it. I think that's a very important topic we might want to look at in the next session, guys. Yeah.
Of course, the other issue you've got there is that all the main Russian banks are now sanctioned. So you couldn't even trade on ILC terms guaranteed by a Russian bank because you literally
can't get the money.
So you're caught both ways, and obviously people who are currently trading will be trying to unravel that if they can. If they've got an exposure, they'll try and find a way to get it paid, but they may not succeed, and there may well be political risk claims. You know, well, there will be political risk claims as a result, as well as you know, normal credit claims.
Yeah, and the banks.
You know, but we asked Bosch. Sorry, we asked Bosch to pay all their outstanding, and they did it immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, they because they want to keep trading, so they don't want us to stop the deliveries if we can get the logistics into Russia.
And is it likely the banks will be honouring letters of credit as well that have happened prior to the sanctions?
I think the movement of currency is going to be very hard, you know, regardless of letters of credit. I think because the ruble has crashed so badly, they're holding on to all their FX reserves. So the movement of dollars, I don't know how it's going to go at all.
Hopefully you weren't being paid in rubles, though.
Yeah, but I think
I know that, but are you going to be paid at all? That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, is any other currency going to move from there?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to consider, you touched upon it earlier, Darren, reputational risk. These brands are exiting because they don't want to damage their reputation. We have the example of the liquid, the gas ship, the Russian ship that tried to dock in the UK, and the dockers said no, we're not going to let you come. So even if you overcome your distaste on dealing with Russia, you still may not be able to get your goods here if ordinary people turn around and say, well, no, we're not going to accept that. So that's another.
These are very interesting, isn't it?
Should we, it's a moral question, should we trade with this type of regime? I'm not sure we should, painful as that might be.
So there's the ethical question on top of everything else, on top of your sanctions and
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it's very easy for me to sit in my in my comfortable house in in the south of England and say that, but it's a lot more difficult for other people who are reliant on Russian energy.
Yeah, so sorry, this is Colin from Sousa, and I know we're out of time, so I'll be as quick as I can. But so we don't have any exposure, thankfully. We have dealt with Russia on a cash in advance basis, so we give them a discount up front, and it's much cheaper than credit insurance. We've found over the years in general. So we have a few bob, but not much. But we do have some pretty significant renewals coming up. And obviously the commercial side of the business here is very conflicted insofar as how long sanctions are going to last. And to Derek's point, even if things are to change, within kind of 3 to 6 months, is there an ethical kind of trail then after that? How quickly do you go back in and all that kind of thing? So
Colin, can I just ask you, sorry, on that perspective, and I also was going to ask Mark too, there's a couple of things that are coming up to me. I work in a global American, so it's irrelevant to me in this country. It's irrelevant to me, sorry, Russia and Ukraine are irrelevant to me currently. But do you think about the populace and what you're doing for your service of your business to to Russians? Because again, back to that point I made earlier. Or do you think about your own risk? And I actually believe one has to think of one's own risk. And that's really devastating, I think, to the Russian populace, but it's more devastating, isn't it, to our Ukrainians being bombed? So what is it? Is it the dilemma of pulling out? I don't think that can be deemed unethical if you were to do it in the current circumstances. Or does it seem an ethical question to you? Ethical/financial, probably.
You see, it is and it isn't, because I completely agree with you on one hand. On the other hand, part of our software is used to pay Russian pensions.
Yeah, there you go.
Through the Central Bank of Russia. So, I mean, there's pensioners who will be impacted by that, and that's an ethical question too, because it's nothing to do with them. So. I'm completely conflicted. I completely conflicted on it. I understand the sentiment, and I understand the reason, the strategy, I suppose I understand, but the impact isn't lost on me either.
Yeah, quite.
Okay, everyone, we are overrunning. I can allow us to carry on for another 20 minutes or so, but just for those that do need to leave us shortly, I just wanted to point out a few resources that we're making available at Forums International, and just to let you know about the follow-up meeting. So very quickly, we are receiving resources from various of our partners. Our partners at Class Academy have started to put together some very worthy blogs, which we will be sharing to our members and also reposting on our website. Somebody mentioned cybersecurity in the chat. We are also in receipts of a regular cyber intelligence report that comes from David Swan. David Swan is a Canadian ex-military, really knowledgeable on geopolitical situation when it comes to cyber. So these reports will also be putting onto the Forums International website. I'm going to take some time out this afternoon to make a new dedicated area within the website. So we do have a good resources center already, but I think we need a dedicated section for the impacts that we've been discussing today.
Yeah. So
I'm going to get that up this afternoon. I've been speaking with Laurie about how that should look and operate, and we'll get that done very soon. If anyone has anything that they want to contribute to the resources, then pop us an email, spotlight@forumsinternational.co.uk, or just contact us directly.
And Darren, this is recorded. Apologies, I missed Mario's intro, presumably
Yes.
mostly of the. Yeah, so I can go back and have a look soon.
Yes, yep. We want to spread this as far and as wide as possible, so we're actually going to make it public as well.
Okay, you're going to put it on the site, or yeah,
it will be on the site hopefully this afternoon.
Great. Thanks.
Our forums at Forums International are obviously going to be covering various elements relating to the conflict, but the most relevant forums where we're going to be discussing in more detail some of these topics are the International Credit Forum, and we're doing a special offer for a discounted membership to the International Credit Forum. The forum meets quarterly. For the last couple of years, it's been all online, like we are today, but we are looking at going hybrid and starting to have face-to-face meetings as well. If that's of interest, then email address is there. And then the other one is the one that I chair at the moment, the Fraud Prevention Network. We're certainly going to be covering off in a bit more depth some of the cyber issues, but we'll also look at compliance as well. Next meeting for the FPN is in, we just had one last month. The next one is in May. We're just putting the agenda together for that at the moment. Pop onto the Forums International website and you'll see the dates for all of these. I am also running a cyber and fraud awareness workshop, and Kevin Smith, who's also with us today, is running a workshop on payments. This is going to be a face-to-face workshop based in London. We can offer a discount as well for attending that. That workshop's being supported by Forums International, Risk Skill, and Cybertonica. I'll pop a link to that, and I'll circulate the details for that after this meeting as well. And then finally, we can also offer a discounted membership to CICM for any credit managers that would like to join the Institute. So just let us know and we can arrange that for you. Our next meeting, as it stands at the moment, we are planning to do in 2 weeks' time. If people really do feel that it would be beneficial to meet sooner, then we can do this sort of time next week. But I'll take feedback on that and we'll go from there. The booking is already open. We just opened it this morning for the next event on the 23rd. Going to do that one slightly later than today, which may mean that we can also get more of the Americans to attend. It's a bit better timing for them.
Darren, I'll just interrupt a little bit. We seem to have, I've written down some notes here, supply chain, payments, and economy and experiences seem to be the sort of four agenda items, I think. So we can certainly get an economist to help support.
I thought you might focus on cyber today without knowing. I would have thought that's got to be right up there, hasn't it?
Yeah, I wanted to get the sanctions piece done first, because I think a lot of organizations don't fully take into account the effect that sanctions can have upon them and their obligations. So I wanted to get that out as the immediate awareness. But yeah, absolutely, cyber is going to be high on the list as well.
Must be increasingly, yeah. Yeah. Thank you all.
I just a couple of things. I listened in on an Allianz podcast this morning on this topic, which was really quite interesting. I think it's about 35 minutes long. I've just tried to find the link and I can't find it, but I'll see where it is. I'll send it to you, Laurie. Also, this afternoon, W Dennis is part of a global credit insurance network called Farasol, and we have a call this afternoon about this topic. We have partners in the Baltics and the Balkans and Ukraine and Poland, and there's been quite an impassioned sort of dialogue going on. So we're going to be talking about this issue and the impact on those economies and the credit insurance market. So if there's anything that comes out of that, Laurie, that I can send to you, I will do. Okay.
Please, everything is welcome at the moment. To be honest.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, isn't there? Derek, is that, sorry, did you say Allianz?
Allianz, yeah.
And that was their risk.
It was an Allianz podcast, and they had somebody from they had an insurer and an economist and a sort of political spokesman. So I think it's a regular Allianz podcast that they do, but this one specifically about Ukraine and sanctions.
Sure, good, thanks.
Slides today as well will also circulate to everyone. So those will be in your inbox hopefully later today as well.
Great.
Okay.
I must run. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Lisa. I look forward to catching up with you again.
See you later.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, all.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mario.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Bye. Thanks, Mario.
Bye-bye.
Thanks
Thanks very much for joining.